Flip to Freedom, episode number 76. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip to Freedom podcast, and we are on episode number 76. Now, if you are flipping through iTunes or flipping through your BlackBerry and you just tripped across this podcast, I'd like to welcome you and let you know that I have put this podcast together to show you exactly how to go out and quit your job, be done with corporate America, be done with a rat race, be done with commuting, be done with living month to month. And you're searching for something, maybe to try to get out of that scenario. Well, in this podcast, I show you exactly how to do this by flipping houses, wholesaling houses in your spare time using no cash, no credit, and I don't care if you have any experience whatsoever. Now, a handful of years ago, I had a dead-end job that I just completely hated. I hated my boss. I hated my situation. And I was in that uneasy situation where I knew I wanted to do more and be more. I just didn't know what the heck to do, right? Well, on a Saturday afternoon, I was going to a sales call to an appointment. I was flipping through the radio stations, and I heard this guy talking about how you could wholesale houses or flip houses. And he was saying how you could make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 per deal. I thought he was crazy, right? Because I'm originally from back east, and I had that skepticism, and I thought it was nuts, so I flipped the channel. I said, no way, there's no way that can be done. Because you have to have cash or credit to do real estate. That's what I thought. Well, something in my gut, it was God's intervention, told me to turn the channel back, and I continued to listen to what this guy had to say. Well, I ended up buying his course and learned how to flip houses and wholesale houses. Now, here's what the concept is. Okay, you market for a motivated seller, and that motivated seller could be someone who inherited a property. It could be someone who maybe is a probate situation, someone who has an absentee investor, meaning it's an out-of-state investor that has a tenant that maybe trashed the property. And what your objective is marketing for this motivated seller is to simply secure a contract for a price. So let's say theoretically the property is worth $100,000 all fixed up, and you talk to a motivated seller, and that motivated seller could be HUD. It could be HUD, the FHA HUD program at HUDHomestore.com. They're a motivated seller. Anyways, so your goal is to secure a contract for a price. Okay, so let's say you talk to the seller, you bid on a property on HUD or whatever, and you get it under contract for $50,000. Okay, so now you have a contract. This gives you equitable interest in the property. Then what you do is you're going to have a closing time frame. That closing time frame could be 30, it could be 45 days or whatever. So now what happens is you're able to market that property to a cash buyer. Now you're probably wondering, who in this market is buying properties cash, and why would they buy properties cash? I wonder the same thing. Well, I can tell you right now, there are smart investors. There are people with tons of money that are coming into this market in floods right now looking for deals, because the United States right now is on sale. So smart money's coming into the market, and they're looking for properties. They're bidding on properties, on REO properties, picking them up at the county courthouse, and the whole thing that they can do to try to get these deals, because they're building portfolios for themselves, or they're fixing and flipping for profits. So guess what? You turn around and market the property, and you market it, this $50,000 contract you have, for $60,000. Right? So then a buyer calls you up and says, hey, I'll take it for $60,000. You say, great. You sign a purchase contract with them. You get a $2,500 non-refundable deposit. And now what do you have? You have two contracts. You have a purchase contract with a seller for $50,000. You have a purchase contract with a buyer for $60,000. Now what do? You bring both these contracts down to a closing agent, right? Title company, escrow officer, whatever. And you instruct them to do either an assignment, a double escrow, a simultaneous close. They'll know exactly what you're talking about. And then what they will do is they'll facilitate the entire closing process. They'll call up the buyer to wire in the funds. The buyer will wire in $60,000, of which $10,000 will go to you, and the balance will go to the seller. The seller will be happy because guess what? They got to get out of the property quickly, and your buyer will be happy because they got a below market property, and you will be happy because you walked away with $10,000. Now, the beauty about this business is that you can do this as many times as you want in a month, okay? Now, we're pushing this month in December. Now, I can tell you first off, this is my full-time business. This is exactly what I do on a daily basis. I flip houses, and that is my main source of income, not doing podcasts or selling programs or doing anything like that. I flip houses. I love it. I love flipping houses. I love talking to sellers. I love talking to buyers. I love doing deals. I love it. I don't know. It's a blast. And I can come and go as I could please. I got 2 kids, and I can spend time with them. I go out to California in my beach house every summer and just hang out for the month on the beach, and it's a blast. But the bottom line is that it gives you the freedom to do what you want to do and when you want to do it. Now, this month we're pressing on doing 20 deals in 1 month. 20 deals in 1 month. Smoke a month. December is typically one of the best months because of people all pushing by the end of the year to reposition their money. So, what we talk about in this particular episode, is this is a continuation from the 4 phases of the Freedom series that we have been doing, and this is phase number 4. There's 4 phases. Okay. Now, phase number 1 is getting your first check. How to go out and get your first check. So maybe you listen to this, right, this episode, then you go back and listen to the 75 other different episodes that we have in there, and then you say, hey, listen, I really want to do this. Well, the first step is to go out and get your first check. Do the process we just talked about. Talk to a seller, get a property under contract, talk to a buyer, get a buyer under contract, and then go through the closing process. Once you go through that closing process and understand how it works, you can do it over and over and over and over again. Okay? So when you go out and get that first check, that is the most exciting time in the business, because guess what? You have done it. You have accomplished the first goal. The first challenge is going out and getting that first check. And I love getting videos from people that get their first check and they're just all like wide-eyed and they're excited, like, oh my God, I got my first check. They're so excited. It's awesome. I know when I got my first check for $11,008, I was ecstatic because everybody and their brother told me it couldn't be done. And I can tell you, there is no better revenge than massive success. You got a check and you shove it in their face and say, oh, really? Here's $11,008. Boom, baby. So that check definitely comes in handy. Now, phase 2 is getting 1 year's worth of income in the bank as fast as humanly possible. So now what you do is you continue the process. You rinse and repeat. You continue to, around your job, market for sellers, market for buyers. You go out and get a $10,000 check, a $15,000 check, a $5,000 check. You accumulate that until you get 1 year's worth of income. Okay? Now, if you want to go back and listen to phase 1, I think it's episode number 68 that you can listen to. So then you go to phase 3, right, which is going full time. And that's where now you've quit your job. Now, that's in another exciting day. If you got videos, if you quitting your job, send them to me because I'd love to see them. Because now you've learned the business, you've done some deals, now you have 1 year's worth of income in the bank, and now you go into your boss and you give him your 2-week resignation, and now you're done? Is that not an exhilarating day or what? It just, I'd love to be there. It'd be a fly on the wall to see that. Anyways, so then what do? Phase 3 is you go full time. Now you position your business to where now you're going to actually run a business on a daily basis. So what does your day look like? What is the day in the life? And I think that's episode number 73. 73 is how to quit your job, and 75 is a full-timer failure. So that will tell you exactly how to go full-time, episode number 75. Now, in this particular episode, phase 4 of Freedom, right, we're going to talk about how to go out and build $10,000 a month of passive cash flow using no cash and no credit. That is the final phase. And that is where we're going to go out and build a property portfolio that produces passive cash flow of, in this case, say $10,000 a month. Now you can build it to whatever you want, but $10,000 is I think an easy goal that someone could go out and easily achieve by following this method we're going to talk about here in this episode. Now, what we are also going to talk about is what type of deals you're looking for, how to find them. We're going to talk about how to structure the deal using no cash and no credit. And exactly step-by-step process, even what to say in the contracts, how to write the contracts. And then at the end of this video, I want to share something really special with you, because this is the deal, is that, you know, I'm 42 years old, right? And it's December 29th. We're going into 2012, which is the most exciting time. I love this time of the year because I really get to go down and revise my goals. Now, the next episode, we are going to talk about your goals, your goal setting. And I'm going to basically share with you a blueprint and a goal setting plan that has worked for me, and it's phenomenal. And it's basically taking in actual goal setting plan along with spiritual laws of success, and along building it in with the law of attraction, and how those all interplay together to go out and accomplish success and accomplish your goals. So make sure you listen to the first episode of the new year, because I will explain a goal setting that you can follow step by step on exactly how to go out and do. Now, if you haven't have been to my website yet, you can go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com, and I have a video. There's a video of me on the front page there. All you got to do is put in your email address, and I will send you a special link where I will give you a 129-page book that I wrote that you can get for free. And it'll tell you exactly, specifically, how to go out and quit your job in 19 weeks or less, following this same procedure that we're talking about. Okay, and it goes through in absolute grave detail on exactly what you have to do. I give you tips, I give you resources and everything. I've had people tell me that they spend over $1,000 for the same information that I give away for free. All right. I think that's it. Enough of the jumble. Okay, let's get into this. All right. Phase 4. Building a $10,000 a month passive cash flow using no cash and no credit. Now, picture this. You went out, you listened to this podcast. You went out and you got your first check. Boom. You're excited. You got your first check. You did it. Then you went out and you rinsed and repeat. You continued the process. You went out, and now in your marketing for sellers, you're talking to sellers, you're getting comfortable with the process. You're building a pretty large cash buyers list, email list of names and numbers, and you're marketing the properties, right? And you start to get comfortable with the process enough to where you get 1 year's worth of income in the bank. Then you can go out and then you can quit your job. Okay, you tell your boss you're done, and now you're going full-time in the business. You're marketing for sellers, you're talking to buyers, you're flipping properties, you're making a phenomenal living, doing what you love and having all the free time to do what you want to do. Now, instead of just that being it and just saying, okay, I'm just going to flip properties for the rest of my life, what you want to do then, right, is phase 4. And phase 4 is where you start building passive cash flow. Now, passive cash flow is to where you have real estate, right, and you have people sending you checks whether you work or not, okay? And it could come from the form of a note, of actually having a note on a property, and then someone pays on that note every single month, like you pay a mortgage every single month, or it could come from actually owning the property and having a tenant in there that's going to pay you every single month, either or. One of them, you get to deal with tenants, and you can have a property increase in value, and you get to capture that. Or the other way is you just make interest on that particular note. Either way, you can build it using no no cash and no credit. And we're going to talk about in this particular episode exactly how to go out and build a property portfolio. Now, these could be single-family properties. These could be multi-unit properties. These could be commercial properties, whatever the case may be. Let's say you make $10,000 or you need to make $10,000 a month to support your current lifestyle. Well, the goal in this particular case, to make it simple, would be to go out and get 20 properties to go out and that are producing $500 a month cash flow. Now, I can tell you when I first started in 2003, when I learned the business, I went out and I made $123,000 from May to the end of the year. So for what, 6-7 months there, made $123,000 a year. That was pretty good for me. I was like, flipping houses. Well, then we went out and started building a property portfolio. And we built a property portfolio of 120 properties, $36 million worth of residential properties. And we were holding on to them using the methods that we're talking about right here, using no cash, no credit. And what we did was now we owned all these properties and we were getting cash flow every single month. Every single month it came in. Well, what happens, this was in 2003, 2004, and early 2005, the market here in Phoenix shot through the roof. It went bananas. It was like crazy. It was going up like 5, 10, 15% a month, it seemed like. It was nuts. There was less than 5,000 units of inventory in the marketplace. There was buyers just scooping up everything. And one thing I learned from Warren Buffett is he goes, sell when everybody's fearful, or buy when everybody's fearful and sell when everybody's greedy. So we sold into the greed. We sold into the marketplace. Sold into when everyone's buying, we're selling like crazy. And we sold all of our properties and made an absolute killing, a fortune, millions of dollars. It was absolutely unbelievable. But we used the same principles I'm going to talk about here. Now, we kind of backed off. We let the market kind of cool. The market dropped dramatically here in Phoenix, and now I'm in a position where I'm building my portfolio again while I'm flipping properties, doing exactly the same thing. So now, how does this work? Well, first off, you're going to be marketing for motivated sellers. Right? You're going to be marketing for sellers, and what happens is leads are going to come in that's going to give you the opportunity to structure the deal to where you could keep it part of your portfolio. Now, let's talk about what you're looking for first. Okay? What you're looking for. You're looking for a property. Okay, let's give an example first. Okay, so you market for a seller, right? A lead comes in. The seller's highly motivated. They just want to get out of the house. They're sick of it. Maybe they got transferred and they just want to be done with this property. Okay, and then you get the lead, and they're motivated because they have a motivating situation around them. So now you talk to them and you get the property details, and they say, well, I owe $80,000 on the property, and I don't know if there's any equity, but I don't care. I just want to get out of the property and be done with it. So that right there is a sign of motivation. I would probably make an appointment with them to go see the property. Obviously, I'd find out more information. I'd find out what type of repairs are on the property, all the typical questions you would ask a motivated seller. So then I would gather the information. I go on the appointment. I go look at the house. Okay. Now, one of the qualifying things to determine if this is a property that qualifies for me to keep in my inventory is, number one, it has to have a good loan in place. So that $80,000 mortgage that this seller has in place has to be a good mortgage. Now, what's a good mortgage? A good mortgage would be a property that has a low interest rate, 5, 6, 7%. Even 7% is too high, 5 or 6%, 4, 5, 6 or 6%. Number two, it's a 30-year fixed, right? And it's not like an option arm where they pay the minimum payment and the balance goes on back of the property, or it's a interest-only loan for the next 3 years and then it balloons to into this weird, whatever. Or if it's a HELOC that, you have to do some weird stuff with, home equity line of credit. So I'm looking for a good loan. That's my first qualifying factor, is that there has to be a good loan on the property. Okay, a 30-year fix with a low interest rate on there. Number two is you're looking for a property with at least 20% equity. So in our case of our example, we have a motivated seller. The property's worth, let's say, $100,000. Right? And they owe $80,000 and they just want to get out of it. That would give you 20% equity into the property. Number 3, the property has to be in fairly good condition. You don't want a property that's completely trashed that you have to go out and spend $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on renovation just to get it in rentable state. You want a property that's in a good condition. The next thing is you want the market rents. Okay, you want the market rents. Now, how do you find the market rents? You go to rentometer, I think, .com, rentometer.com, or, I typically, would drive around the neighborhood and just kind of see what the neighborhood's like, look at the for rent signs and stuff like that, maybe call them the for rent signs. But typically, rentometer.com will give you a good indication of what the rents are going for in that particular area. Now, what you want is you want your rental amount to be at least $500 more than the mortgage amount. So let's say our particular deal right here that we're talking about, let's say for their $80,000 loan, they have, let's say, 4.5% interest. I'm not doing the exact numbers right here, but let's say their payments with taxes and insurance is $600 a month. Okay, and let's say now you can rent it for, say, $1,200 a month for that particular property. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. It's in fairly good condition. It's maybe a newer built house. So this particular property you can rent for $1,200 a month. The payments are $600 a month. Well, you get a $600 a month spread. That would qualify for me as a property I would consider to take in my inventory. Okay, the fifth and final qualifying factor would be that the seller. Right? The seller is willing to walk away with a little down payment, little or no down payment. Okay? So now you're looking for motivation. Most people won't walk away from a house like that. They're going to want something, either some money to move, $500, $1,000, whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is this: is that you're looking for that motivation there, where they're willing to be, okay, I just need to get out of this house, be done with it. So in this particular case, I wouldn't want to, have a down payment any more than like $3,000. $3,000 in this case would be my max. So anything under that would be good for me to make the deal structure work, under $3,000. Now, let's talk about the pitch. Okay, how do you pitch this to the seller? So now that's what you're looking for. So I go in, I meet, Mrs. Seller or whatever. They got transferred and they don't know what to do with the house because they can't afford both houses. They don't want to be, an out-of-state, owner and have to deal with tenants. They just don't want to deal with that. They just want to be done with this house so they can move on with their lives. Okay, so how do I pitch this to the seller? So I go into the house, I'm looking all around, looking at all the stuff, making sure, it has, for the condition-wise, it's in a good condition. It doesn't need a lot of repairs. I'm building a rapport, obviously, with the seller, talking about what their situation is, why they want to sell, and then asking them questions like this. What would you do if you couldn't sell the property? What would you do? Would you be willing to come in, if you're going to stick it on the market today for, say, $85,000, $86,000, would you be willing to come to the table with cash? And I would ask questions like that because those are qualifying questions, because the seller, if they go, no, there's no way I would come in. We don't have the money to come in with this. We just have to let the property go. If someone's at the state of mind where they're saying, hey, I would just let the property go, right? That means they're willing to let the property go back to the bank of foreclosure. So anything I can give them would be a positive. Okay. If someone says, well, I'll just hang on to it, and I'll just have to pay both mortgages. That's what I'll have to do. And if I have to rent it, I'll rent it. That's a little bit different. But if someone says, hey, listen, I just want to get rid of the thing. I don't care. What would he have to do? Otherwise, I'll just let it go back to the bank. Then that's a good sign that there's a motivation level there. Okay, so what I would do is I'd sit down with Mr. and Mrs. Seller and say, hey, listen, we got obviously a couple different options. We're in a situation right now where your property, there's not a lot of equity there in the property. It is a tough market right now. You can let the property go to foreclosure, but I don't suggest that, of course, because that's going to take a 7-year hit to your credit. The next thing you could do is you could hang on to it for rental purposes. You could go out of state and you could rent the property. Now, being an out-of-state landlord obviously is difficult. difficult trying to manage something like that. But you could get a management company. You could probably rent it, potentially get some cash flow out of the property if you've considered that. Now, what I find is a lot of people are like, there is no way I don't want to rent my property. The other thing is just hang on to it. Don't rent the property and pay both mortgages. So pay your mortgage up there, wherever place you're transferring to, and pay your $600 mortgage down here, and just hang on to it until the market comes back. But you're going to be $600 negative every month and any other type of repairs on the property, and make sure there's obviously no vandalism because it's vacant. Okay, and it's also difficult to get insurance on a vacant property. So once they understand that, most of the time they say, there's no way I want to do that. I know I want to have this $600 a month black hole that I have to hang on to with no end in sight. So then once you bring them through those different scenarios, right, and they say, listen, what we could do is this. I could take over the payments on the property. Okay, now the loan will be in your name, Mr. Seller, but I will make the payments on the property. Okay, I'm in the business of, renting properties. So what I'll do is I will go out, I'll manage the property, and I will make payments to a servicing company, which would be a title company. And what they will do is they'll make payments to your bank. And then there'll be a statement that comes every single month that you know that the payments are being made. Okay, now, I'm going to go in and I'm probably going to put some money in the property and maybe put some new paint or carpet or do whatever to clean it up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find someone that's going to come in and rent the property for me. I'm going to deal with any type of repair issues or anything like that. You're going to be completely done with the property. I'm going to go out and make payments to it. Now, people always ask, what's the worst case scenario? And I always tell them, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that if I default on the property, meaning I don't make payments, then the property would revert back to you and you'd be in a similar situation. Okay? But the bottom line is maybe down the road, a year or 2 years down the road, if that ever happens for any reason, maybe the property's in a better situation where you could turn around and sell it. Now, in this particular case, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can give you, instead of you having to go foreclosure and come to cash to the table to try to get out of it, I can give you $1,500, right? And at least it could help with the moving costs and stuff like that. I'll pay all the closing costs. I'll pay all the fees. You'll get $1,500 at closing. And what I'll do is then at that point, I'll take over the property and then I'll go in and clean it up. And then I will turn around and rent it and then make the payments directly to the servicing company. They'll make payments to your bank and you'll get a statement every single month. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm not in the business of losing money, so I don't do that. So this is a choice you have to make, but it works really well for both sides. It's a win-win for both situations. So if you present it like that and there's motivation there, there's a very high probability that they will let it structure that way. Now, so they say, yes, okay, that sounds like a great idea. I never thought of that before. Let's do it. So now how do you structure the particular paperwork? What are you going to do? Well, you're going to have your regular purchase contract. Okay. Now, what you're going to do, and this is what I do, there's a couple different ways to take title to or get ownership of the property. One is what's called an agreement for sale or a land contract or a contract for deed. That means that the title will not transfer until the underlying $80,000 note is paid off. Okay. Now, that's one way to take title. Okay, the second way to take title is what's called subject to the existing loan. That's when title actually transfers, so the title is in, say, my name, buyer's name, and the loan is still in the seller's name. Okay, now there is a very small risk that the loan, the lender, right, say Bank of America, Wells Fargo, could do what's called a due on sale clause and call the note full. Okay, there is that risk. Now, I can tell you, I've been doing this for a while, and also my escrow officer has been doing this for 30 years. She has never seen a due on sale clause or a due on sale on a property and actually call the note full. It's very rare that it happens because banks, if you're making the payments on it, they don't want the property back, especially in this market. Okay, it happened back in the 70s because people locked in at 7-8%, interest rates went to 20%, and they would do a due on sale, and because they knew they could get the money back, and then they could turn around and relend it at 20% interest rate. That's when it happened back then. But it rarely happens now. But I do have to disclose to you that there is a risk of a due on sale clause. Now, for me, if I'm going to purchase the property myself, for me, I'm not going to flip it, right? Because you can flip these deals. But for me, I am going to take that risk of a due on sale clause, and I will buy the property subject to, meaning I will take title. If you're not comfortable with that risk, I would definitely consult your attorney completely and the title company before you make a decision whether to take title or not on a property. And you might just want to do an agreement for sale or a land contract or contract for deed. But in my particular case, for me, I would take the property subject to the existing loan. I'd have the contract, and the verbiage would go something like this. Buyer agrees to pay all closing costs, okay, on the property. I typically pay all closing costs. Buyer agrees to purchase property in as-is condition, okay. Also, buyer agrees to pay seller $1,500 cash at closing. Basically what I agreed to, right? Next thing, seller agrees to convey title via warranty deed subject to the existing loan of X, $80,000 or whatever, for the term of X amount of years. Typically, what I try to do is get as many years as possible. Try to get the full note if you can. But if they balk at that, then at least get 7 to 10 years to let the market recover. Okay, and then buyer agrees to pay all closing costs, and then your out clause, which is contract is subject to partner's approval. Okay, that's your out clause for some reason if you don't want to proceed forward with the deal. Okay, so now, now what happens? So now you have a contract with the seller, with the structure where you can keep the existing loan in place, you give them $1,500 of cash, and you bring it now to the title company or the closing agent, and you bring it to them and say, okay, listen, I'm going to close on this property. Now, what's it going to cost you? Well, it's going to cost you $1,500, right, to close on the property, because $1,500 has to go to the seller, and it's going to close you closing costs. So let's call it another $1,000. So it's going to cost you roughly $2,500 to close on the property in our example. Okay, so now you are going to close on it, you're going to take title in your LLC, and then you are going to own the property in that case, right? Now what do? How do you recoup your $2,500 as fast as possible? Well, then what you do, right, is you go in, make sure the property's clean, they moved out, you get the keys, you go over the house now, and you're going, hey, I got my house, it's your first house, you're excited. You put a lockbox on the property, right? So you can show people the property, and then you put a sign in the front yard that says lease with option to sell, or for sale by owner, low down, no qual. Okay, for sale by owner, low down, no qual. And then you put an ad in Craigslist, and now you're marketing the property to sell it on a lease with an option to purchase. Okay, so now a lease with an option. What's that? It gives basically someone the right to purchase the property at a given time. It's typically 18 to 24 months down the road. And they would lease the property or rent the property, almost like a rent to own. You rent the property with an option to purchase. Now, in this particular structure, right, of a lease option, you're going to get what's called an option deposit. That option deposit could be any amount. I've done option deposits for $10,000. You can do option deposits for more. You can do option deposits for less. But in our scenario, in our example that we're talking about, we have $2,500 that we have expended out on the property, right, that we paid. Now, what I would probably do for me, I'd probably do like a $6,000, $7,000, or $8,000 option deposit on the property. Now, this option deposit goes toward the purchase price. So what type of paperwork, what type of structure am I going to have in paperwork that I'm going to sign with this end buyer, or this lease option buyer? I'm going to have a lease, okay? It's the first thing. You're going to sign a lease agreement. Now, on this lease agreement, right, it's going to be for 18 to 24 months. It's going to be a lease amount, for in our example, of $1,200, right? And they're going to basically be the person that's going to lease the property from you. Now, what you could do is you could credit them X amount of dollars, say $200 or $300, toward the purchase price of the property if the rent is paid on or before the 5th of the month. What this will do is it'll motivate them to get their payments in, because then they're going to get credited toward the purchase price, and it's going to build equity in the property for them. Okay, so that's the lease. It's a typical, just a lease agreement for a price and a term, who's going to lease it, typical landlord-tenant act type of stuff on there. Now, on the purchase contract, you're going to have the option deposit on there. Let's call it $6,000 option deposit. So you get a $6,000 option deposit, and then you're going to figure out a purchase price. Typically, what I do for the purchase price is its market value, so $100,000 plus 10%. So $110,000 is going to be their purchase price in 18 to 24 months, or appraisal, whichever's higher. See, back in 2004, when we did these type of deals, right? And the market went crazy in 2005. If we did not put or appraisal, whichever's higher, then we would have been locked into a price, and when the market shot up, we would have been, locked into a price. Now what we did is we just said, here, it's $110,000 appraisal, whichever is higher. So when the market shot up like crazy, we did appraisals on it. Instead of the locked-in price, it was typically higher than that, and we were able to sell and make tens of thousands of dollars more because of that verbiage in the contract that we put in. Okay, so now you have a lease agreement, and now you have a purchase contract. Now, in the purchase contract, right, the other thing is very important you want to put in there is that you're going to put a statement in there that says the attached lease agreement shall not be in default and must be in good standing, or this contract shall be null and void. Okay, so you're writing this in the extra terms and conditions on the purchase contract. Now, what does this do? That means that it references the attached lease agreement. Okay, now if that lease agreement is in default and it's not in good standing, then the purchase contract becomes null and void. Now, why would we do this? Well, here in Arizona, we signed a lease agreement and a purchase contract with someone, and someone skips the house, right? They move out in the middle of the night or whatever, and they take off, and then they come back, 12 months later, 16 months later, and go, hey, I'm ready to close on the house, because they have a purchase contract. If you don't link the lease agreement to the purchase contract with some sort of default language, then they could essentially come back and could be completely default on the house and purchase the house 18 months down the road and not even lived in it, trash the house, and you might have to turn around and try to lease it out to somebody else, but because you have an outstanding contract or an open contract, you're going to be in a screwed situation. Now, with all of this verbiage, this is an example only. Okay, I would have your attorney, each state is completely different. I would have your attorney review the documents and make sure you're 100% compliant with the Landlord-Tenant Act and all that type of stuff. I'm giving you ideas that you can use that have worked for me. Okay, and that one idea in there works really well because, like I said, if they default on the lease agreement, you want that purchase contract to become null and void and canceled. Okay, now, why I love this is it's a viable goal, because you turn around and you can do this, like I said, with multi-units. What if you mark and you have a 15-unit apartment complex that comes in? There's motivation there, right? And let's say you've done a couple deals, you're comfortable, right? You have some cash in the bank that you want to invest toward your business. And then what you do is you take it on and you can structure it to where you keep the existing loan in place. You maybe re-tenant the property, and then instead of getting $500 a month cash flow, you could get $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 a month cash flow. Once you kind of understand this structure and how it processes, you can pretty much apply it to any sector, whether it be a single family house, whether it be commercial, whether it be you can even do it with land if you like, even though you can't do it with cash flow, but you can do it for increasing land value. So now, this is something that you can work toward. Okay, now this is the final phase of the 4 phases of freedom. First phase is you get your check. Second phase, right? Your second phase is you go out and you get 1 year's worth of income. That's a viable goal that you can accomplish. Your third phase is to go out and quit your job and start cranking it out, busting it out, do a consistent marketing plan, reinvest 15% back in your business and the marketing, and start busting out and consistently doing 5, 10 deals a month. Right? And then after that point, now you're going to have what's called cash stick, meaning you're going to have $10,000 a month you need to live. Well, guess what? What happens if 1 month you make $20,000? What happens if 1 month you make $30,000? Right? Well, guess what? You're going to have $10,000 or $20,000 of what's called cash stick left over that will go part of your savings that you can reinvest. Now, you're going to have some choices here. Do I want to reinvest in the stock market and put money and buy stocks that you can't control? Or would you want to put money into real estate? And I can tell you right now is the time to put money into real estate, because guess what? The market's only going to go up from here. We went through the biggest real estate recession in the mankind history, right? Now's the time to buy and load up and win big, because the market will go up. Imagine if you had 10, 15, 20, 30 of these properties set up just like we structured, right? You have no credit risk. You have no cash risk, right? And then you can start doing and developing these deals and build a passive cash flow. Now, some of you may be listening to this, right? And you might be going, oh, it just seems too hard. I don't know. It takes work. Yes, it takes work. Investing in real estate, building this type of business is the hardest thing you'll probably ever do in this lifetime. And I don't want to steer you wrong and go, oh my gosh, it's push button and you can make $1 million tomorrow. That's not the case. Anything worth having and worth fighting for, the dream that you have is worth it, right? But it takes energy and effort. If there was no energy and effort, guess what? You'd accomplish it and go, there's no value in that. There's value in something that you have to claw and dig your teeth at to make happen. Now, see, in the next episode, we're going to talk about goal setting, right? And goal setting and plans. I believe, right, everybody, and I hope this podcast revives your excitement about life. I hope you don't sleep at night because you're listening to the podcast and you're so excited of the potential of your future. Because there's nothing like being excited about life and then having a viable plan to work toward. Some of you have jobs and you're just going through and you're just going through the motions. That's existing. You weren't put on this planet to exist. You're put on this planet to go out and become great. Well, see, I hope this podcast gives you that spark that you can go out and become great. But see, guess what? I meet people all the time. They have given up on their dreams. They've given up on their, oh, it'll never happen to me. Because they're telling the same old story, or they live with their friends and their family and their relatives and their coworkers. Their entire circle of influence, their sphere of influence, are all people that are just getting by and just making ends meet and just doing it. If you're the type of person, which I know you are because you're listening to this, and you just want to be out of that, well, guess what? You got to have a dream. You got to have a goal. And once you have that goal, that vision, right? Then you turn around and you put forth the effort. Then obstacles don't matter. Obstacles, who cares about obstacles? Because you got a dream, you're going to blow through them. Now, I love this clip from the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. If you ever watched this with Will Smith and his son, it is a great clip, because I can tell you this, is that when you go out and do something different, like flipping houses and going out and getting in the real estate, you're going to start talking to your friends, your family, your coworkers. You're going to even talk to escrow officers, title people, realtors. And they're going to tell you, maybe they're going to tell you that it doesn't work. You can't do that. I talked to my father-in-law. Now, he's the most supported person on the planet, but he did not understand the process of how it worked. So when I found out about this whole concept, when I was driving down the street, listening to my car, I said, is it viable, because he's bought a lot of properties in the past, I said, is it viable to get a property under contract and turn around and sell it before you have to close and make the spread between what you sell it for? He said, absolutely not. There's no way it can be done. You can't sell a property you don't own. That's what he said. So guess what? I was deflated. I was like a balloon. I was all excited. I'm excited. I'm going to go out and make millions of dollars flipping houses, right? You know? And then as soon as I talked to him, I deflated. That was just this mushed up, deflated, nasty balloon. Because he popped my bubble, right? And that's what happens. And then guess what? And then you go back and maybe listen to one of my other podcasts, or you listen to a success story from somebody else, and you go, and you get all excited again, I can do this. I know I can do it. And then you go talk to a realtor, you go talk to a title people, and you go, you can't do that. You can't. That can't happen. And then you popped your balloon again. Boop. You're done. That is the process. You will go through it, but this is the deal. I'm telling you right now, if you follow the stuff that I talk about in this podcast, right, and you actually put forth the effort, and you focus, you will make more money than you've ever dreamt possible. And if you apply in the next episode when we talk about the goals, this 2012 will be your best year ever. I promise you that. But I can tell you this, you've got to have a goal. You've got to have a vision. And you've got to not let anybody take away your dream. Not let anybody tell you that you can't do it or you're not good enough. Because like I said, it doesn't matter your talent. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your background. I don't have a college education. I'm just an average everyday guy. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. And I'm not the sharpest tool in the toolbox by far. But guess what? If you become great at this business, you can change your life, and not only your life, but the lives of your kids and their future and generations beyond that. You can literally change your destiny and theirs, your legacy. So listen to Will Smith right now in this movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, which is one of my most favorite movies, because it will inspire you to not only regenerate your dream, to rekindle that fire, right? But then not to give up on it. Listen here.
Hey. Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right?
All right.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
This is your opportunity to go get it. This is your opportunity to make something great. This is your opportunity to have a blast going out and solving problems for motivated sellers and providing unbelievable discount properties to cash buyers. I can tell you this, your 2012 is going to be phenomenal. Listen to every one of the episodes I have. Download them, listen to them, because it will give you the roadmap. And it will give you the the fortitude, the intestinal fortitude to go out and put a shield on. So when you get excited and you blow up like a balloon, guess what? Your balloon is going to be made out of lead. And no one's going to be able to pop your bubble, because you know what? You have a dream, you're going to go for it, and you are going to make this happen. irregardless of what anybody else says. Because you know what? I believe in you, and I know you can do it. Maybe your friends, your family, your relatives, they don't, but I know for a fact that you can do this business. Just believe in yourself, just a little bit, and start applying the principles. Write your goals down, go out and start the first step of the 4 phases of freedom. And guess what? Results will happen. The universe will line up for you because you committed to something. And amazing things will happen. So now, if you want more from me, go to flip2freedom.com. Flip2freedom.com. You can download my book for free and read it thoroughly. Between that book and these 75 different episodes, there is way more information than I ever had when I first got started. It's all for free. It's all, you can read it, you can learn it, and you can absorb it. And I hope that I can rekindle that fire in you, that you will go out and be excited and go forth and accomplish the greatest dreams that you've ever had. And do it for you and do it for your family. So I wish you an unbelievable new year. We will talk again here in 2012, and I'll lay out my goals plan that you'll absolutely love. So stay tuned for that. Go to flip2freedom.com to get my book, and enjoy your holiday. Take care, and God bless.